Hello, Facebook community. Awesome. Thank you for joining us and happy and excited Women's History Month. We are excited that you will be a part of our journey. We are having a 3-part series. So for the first time ever, I'm having a guest co-host that you're going to see 3 weeks in a row. So this is going to be a new adventure for both of us. Make sure that you get your questions, put them into the chat. And if we can, if they correlate with what we're talking about, we will try and get your questions on the air. Let me get us shared on other. Hello and welcome to Living Strong, the flip side of adversity. I am Dr. Virdra Jackson, the CEO and creative behind Living Strong Consulting. And welcome to our conversation and celebration of Women's History Month. We are kicking off a 3-part series, and I'm so excited to be able to have our guest with us this session, this episode, because she's actually going to be with us for the next 3 weeks, which is a first time. We have never had a guest who is literally partnering with us on a journey in celebrating women's empowerment, women being unapologetically clear on their value, connecting with their purpose and their passion. And before I give you her bio, I just want to say we met actually by happenstance. Good. I went to the Ignite Women's Conference in Delaware here in the U.S. and I just so happened to stumble upon this session that was going on. And I walked in, and truth be told, she caught my eye because of the bad suit she had on. I was like, look at her in that suit. And so that made me pause. And then the content was so amazing that I said, you know what, I'm going to sit down. And then I listened and said, you know what, not only am I staying in the session, I need her on the show, because I know that she is going to add value to the guests who are listening in as we continue to talk about how do you navigate life's challenges and being able to create and sustain a flip, because we all have something in our story that is or has been in adversity. Mm-hmm. And she has so much to share. So let me tell you about her. Her name is Mikeeba Rich. She has been a leader in corporate America for over 20 years. She is a certified leadership trainer specializing in management development. Her unique tutelage style has prepared numerous employees for next level promotion opportunities. Mikeeba is an instructor at the Her School for Women in Ministry. She is sought after to share her message of empowerment at various women's seminars, leadership summits, and corporate forums. Her passion has afforded her the opportunity to partner with radio personalities such as Gary Moore of the Gary Moore Live radio show. Her brand has recently expanded globally, where she will be amongst many of renowned leaders at the PM Global Empowerment Conference in London, England. And Mikeeba is determined to continue her journey to mentor women across the world to become the greatest versions of themselves. And so, as you can hear, There isn't anyone else that I am excited to go on a celebration of women's empowerment with for the next 3 weeks. So you're logging in this week, but you don't want to miss any of the next 2 episodes. So welcome to the flip side of adversity, Mikeeba.
Thank you so much. I am so excited and so elated to be on this platform. I thank you for the opportunity. And I am excited about the journey that we are going to go on together because, as you stated, it is Women's Empowerment Month or Women's History Month. And I think we all play a small part in those things that have transitioned us from the history to our now today.
Yes, we are continuing to create history as we make every decision in showing up in the power and the authority that God has given us.
Absolutely.
And so I allow our guests to pick the title of their episodes. And I was excited about the title she picked, but I also wondered, I wonder how people are going to take the title we picked. So I'm going to start our questions right from that spot. Okay. So for those of you who are on our Facebook platform, you can see my shirt and we are celebrating her series of books. I'm a big deal and so are you. And in today's culture, many people claim to be a big deal. And I'm curious, how does this movement of big deal actually pertain to you and the women that you are trying to impact and influence?
So it's so funny that you even asked that question as it relates to how people will take that statement, because so often we look at the things that we are not. We look at defeat as a characteristic that precedes us. And so when the Lord gave me that topic, I was like, whoa. How am I going to say that I'm a big deal? And what I wanted to translate is that I'm not just a big deal, but so are you as well. And if we look at the scripture in Genesis where it says that everything God made, he made was great, right? We're fearfully and wonderfully made. So when the Creator created us, he created us in his own image, which is perfection. However, there's parts of us with the imperfections that we focus on more often, as opposed to saying, let me give myself credit for the things that I've been able to conquer and overcome. So that is the perception that I want to precede us as a people, as a woman, because there's so many things that we've overcome in life. There's many obstacles, there's many challenges, and sometimes we become stagnant because we're stuck in those moments. But if we just can take a moment to breathe and be able to say, hey, you know what? I conquered divorce. I conquered sickness. I conquered being a single mom. So I am a big deal. And that is what I want us to be able to ingest in our spirits and our minds and our souls.
And truth be told, as I wrote it out, I actually thought about those who might read it in context of arrogance.
Absolutely.
And I have listened to you speak. I've heard your content. I have done my homework. And I know that that is not your heart.
Absolutely.
And as you just shared, it really is about embracing who God has created us to be.
Yes.
And he did not, the very first post I put out to celebrate our episode was a quote identifying that, you know what, God put you here to shine.
Yes.
And to shine now.
Yes, absolutely.
And so for those that you find who struggle who actually shy away from saying that, you know what, I did that because they feel like, oh, I have to give God all the credit. It wasn't me, or this level of what I honestly call false humility. Like they get to this place of, I've got to be so humble that I can't even acknowledge that he's done something through me.
Right.
What do you say to women who are misinterpreting what a big deal is about?
So when I think about it, I kind of go back to the book, right? So we talk about there's 14 days to discovering the big deal in you. there's a process. So when that moment, that pivotal moment for me, when I said that I'm a big deal, was one of my lowest points in life. So it was literally feeling so bad about myself. My self-esteem was low. I had felt like I was at a point where I wasn't going to be able to make it beyond my situation. So in that moment, I knew that there were other women that felt the same way. And in order for me to get you past that moment, it took me to have a self-reflection, which started with the honesty in myself. What do I need to do to get me past this point? And whenever I was able to get past that point, I said, hey, let me help other people come out of that place, because ultimately those things that we think that we are not comes from the perception and the words of other people. Because there's a lot of times where people can see the anointing on our lives, or they can see the greatness in us, but because of their words and because of how they place us in this place where we're not allowed to celebrate ourselves. So as women, I want to get us to the place where we can celebrate who God created us to be, because he did not create us to be in a place of us thinking that we're less than. And that is why we need to make our voices heard, not just amongst each other, and be those voices to one another that can celebrate each other in a place of success and not a place of defeat.
Which is the powerful second line. I'm a big deal, and so are you. It's not about competition.
Never.
There is space and light for both of us. And it is embracing the fact that just because I'm shining doesn't mean that you shine any less. And I love what one of our guests said. Jesus is a big deal. We are made in his image and likeness. Embrace the big deal in you. Absolutely. Yes. I love it. You absolutely nailed it there. It's all interconnected.
Yeah. And I think so that was the perception when I first brought the book out. I'm saying, how are they going to receive this? And I wanted it to be a journey that we went on together, not just myself, but I really wanted to be able to bring women out of darkness, because when I was teaching some classes, the first thing that I would ask is, in a room full of women, we can have 50 women in a room, and I say, what were you created to do? What was your purpose?
Dead silence, right?
Dead silence.
Dead silence.
They have no idea what God created them to be. But the problem with that is, not only do you not understand what you were created to be, but when I say that I'm created to be something, then I'm thought of as being arrogant because I'm confident in who and what God created me to be. So if I can get a community of women that were on the same page and we're celebrating one another, we have platforms like this where you can come and say, hey, I see some characteristics that are within you that can help me, and we can go on this journey together.
And lift this shroud of shame that I feel hold us hostage.
Absolutely.
And we're so caught up in trying to be small that it actually does a disservice to the Lord that we serve. Because if we're so busy trying to play it small, people in the world or in culture are looking at, well, why do I want to serve a God that keeps you small?
Absolutely. Because greater is him that is in me than he that is in the world. And the greatness that is within us, it should shine.
Yes.
And so many times, like when she talks about how we met, and when you walked up to me and said to me, hey, I want you to be on the radio. I'm like, what? Like, wait a minute, radio? And I'm thinking, for somebody to walk up to you and see that there's something in you that needs to be heard by other people. If we were to emulate that amongst one another and use ourselves, our platforms, as an avenue to help, how much farther would we be?
Right. And I can't tell you how often it has happened that I have been in spaces speaking, in secular places, speaking, and someone after will come and say, you're a believer, aren't you? Or they'll say, there's just something about you, or that there's a light that just comes from you. And I feel like that's That's the big deal
Yes,
message,
yes,
right?
yes.
Yes, indeed.
And I think if we would begin to embrace that, there is well, we'll talk about that next week. We'll talk about the aroma, but there is a certain vibe, they say, right? There's a vibe as a Christian woman, as a woman in itself, that when I walk in the room, that I can be seen without speaking. My presence precedes me, knowing that, hey, because if you think about it, if I'm marketing myself, and are you going to market a product as saying it's not that good? That doesn't even make sense. It's an oxymoron. Right. So, if you don't think you're great, and we're talking about in the work environment, we're talking about in ministry, we're talking about in relationships, that greatness should exude everywhere you go, because then people respect you on the level in which you respect yourself.
Right. And she mentioned it. So for those of you who are listening in, I convinced her to share a bit of the content that drew me in. So it's all tied together. So this week we're talking about recognizing and walking in the fact that God has put a greatness in you, and therefore it's okay to say that I'm a big deal. And it's okay to share with another sister that, you know what, you're a big deal too. And then next week, we're going to talk about when you walk in that, you leave an aroma.
Yes, a fragrance
in every room you walk into.
Yes.
I'm so excited. Y'all, you don't even understand how excited I am about this entire series. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about what was the flip for you that helped you kind of create a flip from a place where things weren't as you didn't identify the bigness in you, to the flip to where you are now able to walk in clarity and purpose. We have about 3 minutes to get us started, and then we'll start and continue after the commercial.
Sure, absolutely. So my flip for me was divorce. So my flip was realizing that I was going through a divorce and my daughter was grown, and I was in a place of not really knowing what was next for me. And that caused me, what I didn't know at that time, it caused me to be in somewhat of a depression. And as I looked at myself, I'm like, what is next? What should I do? How do I move forward? And I realized in that moment that there were other women that needed to hear my voice. There were some things that I had gone through in my life that it caused me to be in a place where I didn't have a voice. And I remember hearing a sneak peek, which is one of my titles of my book, is "You're caged in silence, and it's now time for you to be heard." So everything that was caged within me at that moment, I felt like needed to be heard by other women, because they would look at me and my journey and understand, if she can do it, I can turn on the other side. And that was the flip for me, that I said, you know what? As I'm talking to God and he says to me, and it's crazy, you are a big deal. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, and I was afraid to say it, as you stated in the room, like, who does she think she is? And he started to show me everything that I have overcome, how I'm not the statistics that life says that I should be, and how I wasn't stuck in this dark place. I was able to take care of myself, take care of my daughter, and all these different things in life. And as I embraced that, my self-esteem started to grow and grow and grow, until I got to a place of, hey, I'm not going to let anybody or anything take me back to that place, because you weren't there when I was low. So I won't let you suppress what God has done. So I fight for my freedom. And being a big deal is not just a statement, it's a movement. It's a lifestyle. It's a continued journey that I believe that we all have to continually fight for, because life comes.
Yes.
And those challenges continue to come. The obstacles continue to come. And when I stated I was a big deal, I had to fight. I had to fight my way out. So we'll talk about some of the fights, but I just believe that it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a lifestyle. So when I walk in the room and when I have a dope shoe cam, because I love my shoes, man. My shoes interprets how I'm feeling that day.
Yes.
So those are the things that bring me life, because it interprets how I'm feeling, and it interprets that place that I'm going to say that no matter what happens in my life, I am going to hold fast to this position that God has given me, and I'm going to be this big deal until I can't do it anymore. anymore until I'm gone, and my daughter and my granddaughter can proceed in legacy behind me.
Which there's so much meat in what you just said, even down to the word fight. I was actually thinking about that word today, and the Holy Spirit is so amazing, because I wanted to actually talk about the word fight, because I think about fight for me when I really began to understand that God has an assignment for me. It was when I settled in that and decided I was going to be and do everything He has assigned me to do, that the battle began in a fierceness, but it wasn't this crazy, exhaustive fight. It was this level of focus and intention that you could not shake me from.
You can't quit.
And I wanted us to actually help because I feel like there are some who are fighting in exhaustion, but that's not the kind of fight that I know my narrative, and I'm feeling like potentially yours as well. So we're going to take a quick break. I can't believe we are already, Kia, it is a movement. You are on it. Winnie, that powerful sister. I know that's right. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I want us to talk about that fight as well as what motivates you to keep going. We'll be right back. Awesome. We are clear. Well, Facebook community, I see you out there. Y'all are getting these comments in there. Make sure that if you have a question about writing a book, about leading in life, about finding your purpose, any of the above, or, how do I come out of the shadows and actually say I'm a big deal? Like, what were the strategies? Put those questions in the chat so that we can ask them or share them while we are on the air. Yes, I love it. Put up those thumbs, get those hearts, and make sure that you are sharing this. Share this with someone so that those who may not realize that they need this message, this is an opportunity for you to share a message that is timely, that will arrive right on time for someone. Yep, get those hearts up there, get those thumbs up there. Keep clicking them, keep clicking them so that we can push this up into the feeds of others. Hello, Chayla. I love Jay. That is my sister friend. She constantly has my back. Place a question. Yep. Awesome. Wow. So how you feeling?
Good. I'm loving it.
Yes. I told you it goes by so fast. It goes by so fast. But luckily, and we're back. Welcome back to our conversation with Mikeeba Rich. She has been sharing how she gained her voice to actually say out loud that I am a big deal, that the God that is in me has created me for purpose, and that there is a greatness that I gain from Him, and therefore I cannot hide. And because I recognize the greatness that is in me, I can look at another sister and say, guess what? You're a big deal too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just before we left for our break, we started talking about a word that I actually, it was sitting in my spirit this morning getting dressed. And that's the word fight. And I think about some clients that I'm interacting with and coaching, and there is this wrestle of this battle or fight. And I love for you to kind of describe your perspective about the fight once you really have listened to God's call on your life?
Yeah, so the race is not given to the swift, but those that do endure to the end. And how I look at that scripture and how I just look at life in general, as long as there's breath in the body, there's still hope. And so when I'm thinking about that fight, I just see a tussle. We're going back and forth. And the thing that keeps you grounded is when you know what God said.
Yes.
And when you know your purpose. And it took me 45 years to get to the point where I'm like, I know what I'm created to do on this earth. So nothing can shake me. Nothing can move me. So when I started this movement, and again, it's a movement, it's a lifestyle, it's a determination, I had to be focused on the ultimate goal. And that was my voice has to be heard by those women. And if I close my voice or shut my mouth, they can't be free. And so when you know what God created you to do and why you're here, it gives you more of a determination as opposed to you. How I look at it holistically is God is the creator and everything that he created. He is the creator, but we look for those that are created by God to tell us who we are. So if you're created, you can't tell me what God called me to do. I'm waiting on him. And when I hear his voice, nothing can move me. Nothing can shake me. So there has to come a moment when we spoke about earlier how you're in the room and you don't know why you're here. You have to find out why you're here. And everybody is not a number one. Everybody is not called to be in this platform and speak out loud, but it's the still sweet voice of your smile. There's a young lady that every time I see her, her smile changes the room. It's something so simple, but because as women, we've been beat down for so many years, generation on generation, we don't even take those small gifts. Because there's different gifts, there are different calls. I don't care what that is. There's a call for motherhood. There's a call for even being a good friend.
Yes.
A good listener. Anything that God created you to do, you take it seriously and you don't stop. You keep fighting. No matter when you get knocked out, you get back up and you start over again. But you have to understand it starts with you knowing who you are and knowing who you are in God. That starts the battle.
Recognizing that you have value, that you have voice, and both of those are relevant to God. I think sometimes how we get tripped up is we're thinking that big means grand.
Right.
When it's not necessarily about size, it's actually more about significance and intentionality.
And impact.
Right?
Your impact is so important. It's so crucial. It doesn't matter what it is. It's something so small and significant that God called you and created you to do. You have to take pride in that and value in that. And there's no gift greater than the other.
And sometimes we're looking so far down for something else that we miss the small intentional thing that he wants you to work with that's already in your hand. Yes. And if you recognize that has value, that's unique to you.
Yes.
To begin to actually cultivate that thing. I'm curious, what are some habits that you have that keep you motivated when you're moving forward?
So one of the greatest things that keep me motivated is I have to talk to myself. I have to keep this dialogue with this headspace of mine. And I have to continue to speak positive affirmations because I'm telling you, when I declared this stance and this movement, it was life just kept hitting me and things kept coming and people kept saying, and it was just, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming because it's almost like the enemy said, you think you're a big deal?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you who the big deal is. I'm going to really show you. And I promise you, self-esteem issues came and I'm like, I thought I got past all of this. So I have to continue to fight. And I'm going to tell you, more importantly, recently, I had to delete every negative thing in my life that meant no fruit, that didn't bear fruit, grapefruit. Because I understood that in this space, you have to have the right people around you. You have to be in the right environment because you have to have people that are pushing you, people that are within their own purpose and they know who they are. So they're not in competition with those gifts. So I continue to keep myself in a place of positivity, speaking to myself and being around people that are going to speak those things that are not as though they were.
Yeah.
They're going to speak positivity to me whenever I'm feeling low, and I can do the same. Reciprocity is so big for me in this season. Giving and taking.
That is huge. I think something that I also kind of hear laced in that is recognizing that you got rid of things, but you also added
Absolutely
back things that would continue to push you.
Yes.
And I think about the old adage of making sure that you have people in your circle who are ahead of you,
Yes.
who are farther along.
Yes.
If you're always the one out in the front, you're in the wrong circle.
Absolutely.
And so collecting or having voices that are filling the void of the negative things that are absolutely, sometimes you need to be standing on your tippy toes when you're in a group because those people are challenging
Yes.
you, challenging you to grow.
Yes.
What would you say when you are talking about, and I want you to hold up a couple of your books, because you talk a lot about self-discovery.
Yes.
You have a process for self-discovery. So can you share some of the outcomes that you hope to happen as people go through your book, The Big Deal in You?
Yes, absolutely. So the first step to self-discovery is honesty. You have to be honest with yourself. And it's funny, one of my best friends, when she went through this book, she stopped and she called me and she's like, I can't do this. I can't. I don't want to face it. And she closed the book. And I'm like, pick the book back up and start over, right? And it was because she didn't want to see herself. She didn't want to recognize those things that needed to be changed. She didn't want to identify with the pain from the past. So when she did it, she's like, oh my gosh, I was able to face it. Yeah. There's another chapter that talks about, things that you like about yourself. Do you know how hard it is for people to pick 5 characteristics that you like about yourself? I mean, they were stumped. And I'm like, because I did that. And I remember saying, maybe I like this. Oh, I like my eyes. Couldn't find anything that was like, so it was talking about going through and thinking, speaking those things to yourself, not waiting for somebody else to affirm you or validate you. What do you feel about yourself? And then through that honesty, gaining trust of yourself. Because if I trust myself enough to make great decisions. Sometimes we won't go in the room because we don't trust ourselves from making poor decisions in the past. So these are all things that are part of that self-discovery process. So that as you go through and as you speak to yourself and as you identify, you tackle them one thing at a time. And when you come out, you know that you've done it for yourself. You know that you've taken yourself through this process. And you know that at the end, now with God, there's nothing else that can stop me from walking through purpose.
Our guest last week, Dr. Tyus, his first word, he said the 3 P's of life: pain, passion, and purpose.
Yes.
And he shared that oftentimes people stop at pain and they never get to the second and the third P because they're afraid of the pain, which actually that's most often the threshold that's going to get you to everything else that God has for you. And I have a friend, her name is Esther Moore, and I often am wearing a flower, and with Lale Flowers, she designs all my flowers for me. And when we were doing our Fearless Conversations with the Limitless God, she shared in one of those sessions that it's okay to cry. Just recognize there needs to be an end to the cry.
Yes. That's so ironic that you say that, because I tell my friends all the time. My daughter said, Mom, you're like the Hulk. You don't have tears. You're like He-Woman. You can't, I don't see the water. In the last 2 years, I've cried more than I've cried in my entire life. And I was like, I'm okay. Shake it off, because that's what we were taught. But through those tears and through me recognizing my actual pain and emotions, I was able to actually heal.
Right.
And heal from those things that caused me pain, heal from grief, heal from, discouragement and unforgiveness. And it was so enlightening. I'm such a place of peace now because I'm able to identify those emotions and connect with them in a positive way that ultimately came and brought me freedom.
And that actually makes me think about a conversation I had earlier in the week with a client. I was actually coaching her after observing her with one of her clients, and she wanted feedback. And I noticed how unsettled she was in the presence of the client. And when we peeled back the layers, there were behaviors in the client that were triggering her. So she could not show up fully as the person I knew she was because the trigger, she was not acknowledging the fact that that client's behavior or decisions were a trigger for her. Wow. But it was when we actually said out loud that this behavior triggers me, and it causes me to feel blank, blank, blank. Mm-hmm. When she actually said that out loud, it was almost like her whole body loosened up. Mm-hmm. So, because sometimes we're trying to outrun pain, outrun triggers, or outrun hurt, when actually it's turn around, recognize the greatness that's in you, turn around and look at it and say, I recognize what you are, who you are, and actually how you tried to save me before. I no longer need you now.
Yes.
It's powerful when we are willing to understand we don't have to be afraid of the pain.
You don't. And it's so freeing. It's so liberating. It's liberating. As much as, we, as a child or as a teen, like you run from it. You run from being hurt. Your parents
our culture tells us, you're okay. You're okay. Let me get your tissue. Stop crying.
Yes. And so I became so hardened, and I thought that was a way of me being strong. I always got to be there. Suck it up. You don't cry because everybody else needs you. And so when I realized it, and I couldn't control it, I mean, Dr. Vidra, I would just be crying. I'm like, I don't want to cry anymore. And I just couldn't stop. And I'm like, just let it go. Let it go. And it was so freeing. And honestly, I think I freed myself quicker than I would have had I not gone through that process.
Why do you feel like this movement is so important now? In this season, after the 3 years we've been through, why is this movement so important right now?
So right now, I think that it's crucial. So you know how, and I'll say this briefly, but people say, oh, that's old. That was 2019. That was 2020. This is not just a book that I wrote. It's something that people have to engrave in their heart because life is going to hit you. The last 3 years have been so challenging. And women, we're in places where we've never been before. Our voices being heard on platforms that we never had opportunity. We have all of these virtual opportunities. Our voice is going to expand so quickly. I'm working on a movement called Women That Rule the World. And it talks about being in corporate America, taking on your rightful place in those rooms that they say that we're not qualified for. And the reason why we have to know who we are and embrace this big deal is because when they say you're not, they say you can't, you better have something in your back pocket. You better walk in that room like you own it. You better speak over that resume like you know that you're qualified. You better go and ask for that application like you are the big deal. Because if you don't, life is going to stump you down and you're not going to be able to overcome it. Yeah. So it's very important now. It's something that we have to do. Not that we want to do. We have to do it.
And I think about not only for women, but even the faith-based community. Like we have access to platforms. People are in a place of darkness that they're trying to navigate, that they have actually they're wrestling with some because of past things that have resurfaced or things currently that they hadn't even dealt with. And now they're trying to find answers. And we have the answer in our Lord, and we're being given opportunities unlike any other time. And if we don't recognize that you can walk in that space, he will use you. He has prepared you for these moments, for this season. If we're still trying to be small, we're going to miss the opportunity to show up in a way in this moment that he has handcrafted for each of us.
Yes, customized it. And so it resonates so well is because, like you said, there's opportunities that 3 years ago we would have never been afforded. We'd have never been asked to come here. We'd have never been asked to show up. So if we don't take advantage of this season, seasons come and seasons go. So if you don't take your rightful place and gird up your loins and say, listen, I'm going to put my big girls on and I'm going to walk into this room and I'm going to decree and declare, because what God said is yours, but we have to know it first.
Yes.
We have to believe it first. And when we believe it, then everybody else will believe in us. I tell them all the time, I don't have 10 letters behind my name. I'm working on it. But there's places that God's favor takes me that I'm like, wow, his favor outweighs anything. And I'm telling you, if we embrace it in this moment, God will do exceedingly abundantly above all we could think or even ask.
I think about this quote that Bishop T.D. Jakes said. I heard him it was in a sermon quite a while ago, but he was being bombarded. He had just started the ministry there. I think Time had done a big article on him, and people, the naysayers, negative things were coming at him, and he was actually shrinking back. And either a colleague or a publicist was preparing for him to speak on a platform, and he knew that he was supposed to preach, but because of what the culture and the world was throwing at him, it was his moment. And she looked at him and said, all of the world is looking at you. Do you have something to say or not? And when he said that, I was like, do we have something to say or not? The world is hungry. They're in need. There is a sorrow, a sadness. And when you can walk into spaces with light, love, and joy that is odd to everyone else in the room, will you have something to say or not?
Absolutely. Oh, that is so powerful.
When he said it, I said, wow.
And just know that the more you stay silent, the more somebody else is bound, because your voice is the voice they need to hear to let them be free.
What's the most important thing you wish to provide for women in this movement, in this time?
A safe place. A safe haven.
Wow.
Some place that you can breathe.
How often are women afraid to be around other women?
Oh my gosh.
Right?
All the time.
Right?
All the time. It's so, I have a empowerment group called Sistertimes, and the only thing I asked God to do in that place was be safe. Some place that you can walk in, leave the titles at the door, and come in and breathe. And I tell you, I've seen women from all walks of life come in the door and literally just spill out. Just spill out. And I'm so humbled that God would afford me the opportunity through my pain, to offer this place that you can be free, that you can ultimately be vulnerable. How often do we not want to be vulnerable because we're so afraid that we'll be judged? We're so afraid that people will look at us like, you think you have it all together. But in that moment of a dumping, there's also a restoring that happens. So if I could do anything else for anybody, it's just to offer them that place where they can get what I got. And what I got was in a time where I couldn't get it from anyone else. God told me to create it.
And oftentimes when we are doing our work around trauma, healing and creating spaces that we also call safe, we focus on 4 areas of safety: relational safety, emotional safety, physical safety, and psychological safety. And when you can create a space where you give people permission to not by your words, but how you show up. And you give people permission to tap into those 4 areas of safety. Transformation and healing has no choice but to show up.
Oh my gosh, that's so incredible. It's so incredible.
So tell us, and I know I'm getting ready to ask you. Oh, and Winnie said, I love the women at Sistertimes. Winnie, I need a chance. I need a chance to come. Will you get me an invitation? Winnie,
it's an open invite. It's an open invite. 3rd Saturday of the month. Open invite.
Well, you know what, y'all? Secret be told. Secret be told. I think we're going to have a little Sister Time next week.
Yes,
as we have some guests coming. We're going to have Sister Time right here.
Yes.
You don't want to miss the next conversation that's coming up.
Yes.
As we invite some very special guests into the conversation. You have talked about so much that has literally transformed your life and created a confidence in you that is what I saw when I walked into the Ignite conference. It was my very first session. I had literally just signed in and I wandered into a room. I was trying to find the room that I was supposed to be in, and there was an aroma. There was a presence of confidence. I'm curious, how do you define resilience?
That is incredible. You know that's my word, right?
I didn't know, but that's the Holy Spirit.
That is my life motto.
That is the Holy Spirit.
By resilience.
Awesome.
No matter what, I gotta bounce back.
All right.
I have no choice. I have no choice but to bounce back. I have one child. My child is 28 years old, and I raised her as a single mom. And I remember the moments where it just was impossible. I didn't see past that moment. I'm like, man, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make it? And so resilience is what brought me through. And I am determined that until my last breath, that I will leave a legacy that she is proud to follow.
Yes.
That's my goal.
Yes.
Nothing else matters to me. If I can leave a legacy that she and my granddaughter are proud to follow, I'm like, with that, and Jesus saying, well done, thy good and faithful servant, I'm good. I'm good. So I can't quit. It doesn't matter. Life comes at me, full speed at times. And there's things that are, discouraging and time that you're fighting. And in this arena, it's ups and downs, and it's trying to get your voice here and trying to be on platforms. But I just believe that as long as I'm obedient to the call of God, as long as I do what he says do, he's going to place my name in the mouth of men that I gain favor.
Yes, indeed. Well, I understand why we are kindred spirits, because we didn't rehearse any of this, y'all. We are literally, we sat down at two mics. Resilience is her word and legacy is mine.
Oh, man.
My whole game shifted when I really thought about, so this is going to sound a little off, but I want you to stick with me. I had individuals telling me I was working too hard, that I was that you need to learn how to rest, and I rest well when I play hard, and I rest well, and so something shifted in me in that I got crystal clear that I didn't just want to have a business. I wanted to have an enterprise that I left my daughter.
Man.
And so I have two grown daughters who are both passionate about helping others. And whatever they may decide to do with Living Strong Consulting when I'm gone. They can decide, but something shifted in me, and I had to explain to the person who was telling me that, you know what, you're working too hard, you're spending too much time. And I said, you know what, I know from the outside looking in, it looks like, oh, you are doing a lot. You need to slow down. And I recognize there are times in which what I'm doing takes from me, and I make sure to restore. But you have to understand the pace that I'm going at is not just about having a business for right now. It's about creating an enterprise so that my daughter's daughter, so my little Cirrus, who is a preschooler now, can decide, Gigi, I want to run Gigi's enterprise.
That's right.
So it's shifting a mindset around legacy.
I just want you to know that my LLC is Mikeeba Rich Enterprises.
See? Y'all don't even understand. Y'all don't even understand.
When you connected. I'm just saying.
From the door, God said, walk in this door. I know you don't know where you're going, but this is the door you are supposed to walk into.
That's incredible.
Because you're supposed to connect with the sister. And she said yes, y'all. And she said yes.
And I'm excited that I did.
Yes. So I think there was a question that popped up. Yes, keep those hearts and those thumbs up. Come on. I want to see them really coming up here. So what's the one step in coming out of your shell, making your voice heard, especially when you have so much inside, yet your hesitance in exploring them? So I think, what's that one step in coming out of your shell to make your voice heard when you've got so much inside?
So for me, I'm going to be honest. It's the people and places that you're around. It shifts because there's places that you're intimidated to speak in. So I had to realize that, in the workforce, I used to sabotage myself because I would always go into a room and I would say, everybody is more educated than me. Oh my gosh, they have all these degrees. Oh, no, they're so great. And I talk myself out of pitching ideas. And so when I got to a place where I had no choice, because I'm desperate, I have to make this happen. The Holy Spirit literally placed me in places where I had to go forward. So there's two different ways. If you're talking about in ministry, you got to be in the right ministry. You got to be in the right place that your voice will be heard, and that push will push you where you need to be at. If we're talking in corporate, then you have to have the confidence to go in those rooms, declare and declare that place is yours and that God has you no matter what it is and no matter how hard or how big it is. You have to have that sense of confidence to take you to that next level.
We had a guest on here. It was last year. My sister friend Sonia Sessoms, and she has a book called Faithing Forward, and she asked, do you believe him or not? And I often encourage, so I tell my daughters, you can't say no to the thing because you're afraid. You can say no if it's not your calling. You can say no if in your spirit you know it's not the right choice, but you can never say no because you're afraid, because it's that moment that God is giving you an opportunity to believe him and just step forward and watch what he'll do.
Absolutely.
I love that question because it literally is
it's a
step.
Walk. It's a faith walk.
It's a step.
And really quickly, I remember the first time that I had the faith enough to do it is when, out of desperation, the job that I have right now, the Holy Spirit told me to walk into my boss's office and ask for my ex-boss's job. She had literally just quit. Resignation still, ink still wet. And I'm like, what? Nah, I'm not doing that. Nah, that's too much. 3 times. He said, go. I literally got the faith up and got the courage up. And that was when it transferred in me, because I actually saw God make me do it. And I'm like, all right, this worked. This real good. Let me try this again. So it's really putting yourself to the test. Like you said, you can't say no. When God says do it, you cannot say
yes.
no.
Because he's prepared the space ahead of you.
It's already done.
He's already prepped it. Yep. All he wants you to do you believe me or not?
Do you believe me? Step, move, walk by faith, not by sight. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. I don't care if I don't see it. I'm going to move and go forward and watch God do the rest.
Oh, my goodness. We are already at 3 minutes until we close. I tell you what, I don't want us to close without you sharing how people can find you and where they can get the book. We got 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Let's go. All right. So you can get my books. I'm a big deal and so are you. I have 3 in the big deal and you also. This is 30 days of affirmations to tell you how much. Because I told you it's a movement. Just because you find out, you got to keep it. You got to keep it going. So you can find that on Amazon.com. You can also find that on my website at MikeebaRich.com. And then we also have copies available during our Sister Time, which is so on the 3rd Saturday of every month. You can reach out to MikeebaRich.com or Sistertime, women'sempowerment.org.
And one of our guests asked, is Sister Time on Zoom or is it in person?
It's in person. It's in person. So there's opportunities for us to connect through Zoom. So Sister Time is a movement. I'm actually moving. I actually have my 501(c), so we'll be connecting with some organizations and things of that nature. So you'll see a lot more from Sister Time this year. I have a conference that I'll be hosting in September, and it is called The Evolution in Me.
Wow.
The evolution in me, the evolution in you. And it's not about me, but it's about the evolution in women and us taking that time to understand the evolution that's happened with us and how we have evolved through life and trauma and things of that nature.
And for our guests who are listening in, can you spell Mikeeba for us?
My name is spelled Mikeeba. B as in boy.
So that's MikeebaRich.com. Well, my sister, it has been an amazing conversation.
Yes.
I so appreciate, but remember, this is a 3-part series. So for the first time ever, I have a guest who is going to be right here next to me for the next 2 weeks. So we are doing this 3 times in the month of March as we celebrate Women's History Month, Women's Empowerment, and the movement of helping women recognize the greatness of the God we serve is in you. He has made you to be a big deal, and therefore I'm a big deal, and so are you. So stay with us right here, same time, same place, next week on the flip side. We'll see you then. Thanks, Josh. You too. Bye-bye. Hello, Facebook community. Yes, keep those hearts coming. Keep them coming. So I always ask, do you have a couple more minutes for just the Facebook community?
Absolutely.
So the radio show is off, and Facebook community, this is your chance to ask any last minute questions that you have. And oh, look, okay, the Gigi needs to go to her yes, we'll September. All right. Yes. Look, Shayla's already dictating our fall schedule. I know that's right. Because you also have a children's book.
Yes.
Too, right?
I have a children's book. So my granddaughter and I, we wrote a book together. And that's about legacy as well.
Yes.
So I wrote a book with her. And as a matter of fact, just yesterday, she's like, Grammy, we have to write another book. We need to have another one out. So my goal was, again, to create a platform where we can also chronicle our legacy with one another because our relationship is so close. But I wanted her to be self-sufficient young. So she's been an author since 6. And so my goal was to give her a series every year. So by the time I'm gone, she'll have this series of books that she can continue to market, but then she can also continue the legacy herself. So that was what it was about.
And it's almost like you create a ritual that becomes automatic for her. So I think about some grown women of us who struggle to write a book. It's almost baked into her DNA that, yes, I'm an author.
Yes.
I write.
Yes.
What else would I do?
Yes. And my daughter actually wrote she wrote one of the chapters in my book as well. So it's something that I didn't have as a child. I didn't have someone that was pushing me to identify any purpose within myself. You know, back then it was get a job, the job that they give you, because you know they just give us jobs as they think.
Yeah.
You know, let those people give you the job and you hold on to it and don't quit until you find another one. So purpose was not driven as far as I was, you know, as far as my family was concerned. So it's something I'm very adamant about. And I feel like I started a little late in life. So therefore, I'm like, I got to catch up. Y'all talking about sleep. I don't got time to sleep. I got to keep it moving. There's some things, as long as I got breath, you know, I'm watching people, you know, I'll be 50 in July, and I'm watching women die at 50, 51. And I'm like, you know, I don't fear it. But in the same token, I have work to do in the kingdom.
So Dr. Curry asks, where is the conference location?
The conference will be hosted in Pennsylvania. I don't have a solidified location yet, but it will be posted on my website, and I'll make sure that I get it to you as well.
Wonderful.
Because I would absolutely love you guys to join.
Well, Dr. Curry is right here in Pennsylvania, so we'll figure out how to get you there. We'll figure out how to get you there.
I got you covered.
Oh, my sister, I cannot wait. So let's give the Facebook community a little sneak peek. So I shared, we are going to have a series. So Mikeeba says she is going to keep coming back. Yes. So tell us just a snippet about next week. The 2 guests who are coming.
Yes.
And just give us a little taste of what we're going to talk about next week.
I got you covered. So I had a workshop, and actually, just to be honest, that is the title of my next book.
Look at us. We are on the inside, y'all.
Yeah, I'm working on it, and prayerfully it'll be done by my birthday. But so aroma of great leadership, creating a path that others desire to follow. And so it's so important to have this aroma. You ever smell a real good brother? I know you probably married, but I'll be smelling.
I am.
Something about smelling good. You got to smell when they come in the room. And when you smell someone, you're like, oh, who is that? What is that? What's that fragrance you're wearing? As a leader, we have to have a fragrance that exudes us, because people will then want to say, hey, what is that? What's those characteristics that you have created as far as your leadership is concerned that people want to follow? There's ultimately some fragrances that when you walk into the department store and they couldn't pay you. You're like, I don't want to smell it. As soon as you see them, it depends on what they look like. You know, you can be in Brooklyn and they have all like, back up.
Don't even come
don't
near
spray
me.
Don't you spray me. It's about that aroma that comes. So I want to have leaders within, you know, in my environment that are creating this path and creating these characteristics that are attractive to those that are assigned for them to follow, because that's in ministry, that's in corporate America, and that's even in your family. How many have that auntie that you don't want to go nowhere near her house because that vibe that they have? So we're talking about recognizing and understanding what aroma that you portray, and then changing the composition of it. Start to change the composition of it to work for the audience that you're created to attract. So next week, I have 2 young women. Oh man, I can't wait till you guys meet them. Well, I have one that is a marketing executive at Merck Pharmaceutical. She has overcome a lot of challenges with diversity in that workplace and what she had to create to make her voice be heard. And then I have Kelly Little, Minister Kelly Little, and she'll talk about her journey in ministry, because it's 2 different things. And a lot of times they think that we can't function in both facets in the same way, but that aroma can translate both ways, that they never have to know that I'm the woman of God. But they want to say, hey, there's something about you.
Yes, indeed.
And I remember my boss used to say, there's a light Every time I come past your desk, there's sunshine, but I don't know what it is. But I know what it is.
Exactly.
It's the anointing. It's the Spirit of God. So I don't have to Ishanada, all that at the job. I don't got to ask you to the prayer meeting. You going to ask me, well, what church you go to? And that's about the aroma that I possess and the aroma that I'm trying to make other women possess.
Yes. I'll never forget. I had an administrative position in a large nonprofit, and it was going through a harsh transition. There was a lot of toxicity, a lot of division, a lot of brokenness happening. And I will never forget, I was leading a team meeting in my department on one side of the building, and 2 executives from the main office on the other side of the building came into my meeting, asked me to come with them to excuse myself from the meeting I was leading to come with them, because they were like, we need you to just come in here and just pray. Like, we'll know all about, will you just pray?
Please.
Because some things are happening. And I will never forget. I'm like, you don't have to beat people over the head with the Bible. They will see that there is something in you that we need. And so we're going at critical moments. And that's the other thing. When you walk in the confidence of who God has made you to be, you have to be ready for when they come and ask you, pull you out the meeting and ask you.
You got to be ready.
You got to be ready. Oh, y'all, we could go on and on. Are you going to be here next week? Put it in the chat. Say, yes, I'm going to be here.
You're going to be there.
Give
like
us some thumbs up. Give us some hearts. Make sure you are here next week. Same time, same place, right here on the flip side. We'll see you next week. See you later. Bye-bye.